Welcome back to Transforming Lives with Prophetess Rein. I am your host, Rein here, and it is another Say Something Saturday. For those of you that are new to the show, that are just tuning in and catching up, Say Something Saturdays are dedicated to dealing with trauma, turning trauma into testimony, and moving testimony to destiny. That is what we are all about here. It's not just a show, it is also a worldwide campaign that encourages people who have been through any sort of trauma to say something, to talk about what they need, to bring voice to their pain, because if we don't talk about it, we can't heal it. If we don't heal it, we can't progress. If we don't progress, we miss destiny. So that is what the Say Something campaign is all about. We air every Saturday at 11 a.m. right here. New episodes launch. And so I thank you so much for joining me today and being a part of this movement with me. Now, before we get started today, I do want to mention that there is a Say Something website. There is a Say Something Facebook page. So I would love for you to join us there. I would love for you to join us at the blog, because we're going to be expounding on a lot of our topics and making sure that we are answering and addressing your questions. If you have a story that you would like to share, this Say Something movement is going to transition to where we will have guests on our show, and we would love to have you come and share your story of how you have overcome trauma, turned it into a testimony, and how you are walking out your purpose and destiny, how God is using that in your life. Again, in the description, there will be an email that you can send that to. You can also visit our website, which will be listed below. So now that all the announcements are out of the way, I'm really excited to get started, because I know that when you read the title, you thought, what in the world? What could she possibly be talking about? I was molested and I might have liked it. What? Well, I cannot tell you, as a coach, as a prophet, as a mentor, how I've had people come to me and they're really ashamed because during what was sexual abuse, there was a response that they had that has made them feel some sort of way, that has left them in a place of feeling dirty, or feeling like they must have wanted it, or feeling like they liked it. And what I realize is how difficult that is to share. You know, it's really easy to talk about being molested and kind of leave it there, but it's hard sometimes, you know, to dig into the details. And of course, this show is not all about that, but as you share your insights with me and as God leads, I just share as He wants me to go. But I know that, you know, sometimes digging up those details can be embarrassing. It can be humiliating. You know, we suppress certain things because we feel like, you know, maybe it wasn't as much of a violation, you know, as I thought it would be. You know, and they share with me their stories of how they have put themselves in the way because they came so used to it, and as a form of self-punishment, you know, they went and sought out the molestation by, you know, putting themselves in their molester's presence. I mean, I can't tell you how extensive the details really are and how twisted, you know, the enemy will make us feel when we really are the victim here, you know. And I'm not talking about, you know, certain issues where people really legitimately throw themselves in the way because they have other issues and their kids that are looking for sex. I mean, that's a whole different conversation that stems from a whole bunch of other things. I'm specifically dealing with molestation and what happens as a result, okay, and trying to move those that are watching this who may be experiencing this from a place of the guilt, from a place of shame, into understanding what it is that's actually going on, because it's not always easy to talk about, like I said, and I'm choosing to be very transparent. So if there are children with you, you know, you want to watch at your own discretion and make sure, you know, that this is a safe environment and a safe space to really talk about this. You know, I want to give you some time to do that. I have this ridiculous hair in my eye today. I have no idea what's going on, but nevertheless, we're going to just pretend that it's not there. I'm trying to stall to give you time in case you have those in the room that need to exit the room, or if you need to go somewhere and grab your laptop or your iPad or your phone and listen to this privately, because we are going to go into some detail. Not a lot of detail, nothing R-rated, you know, come on, this is a clean show, but we are going to go into some detail. Thank you. That hair was annoying. So annoying. Okay, so let's get into it. So in sharing my own story, And if I have family that's watching, I want to say to you, you may not want to listen to this one because it's, it's just the truth. And again, I'm looking back, not at. My stepfather was saved and delivered when he left this world, and I praise God for that. But I'm looking back into my childhood in order to share, to help others grow. I remember a situation where my stepfather asked me to massage him, and it always started out, with a massage. It always started out that way, and it would progress into him touching me inappropriately or asking me to do things that were sexually explicit, that were very painful for me to do, very, very hard for me to even talk about now. As you can see, I'm trying to search and find the right words. But I remember one night he came into my room, and I had never experienced this before. He came into my room, and as was custom with him, he'd get in my bed, he'd rub my back, tell me he loved me, hold me close, and then it would not be long before the touching would start. And in this particular moment, at this one particular time, I remember as he was touching me there, you know where there is, something happened. There was an exchange, and my body responded. Okay, I think you pretty much get it. My body responded. And I remember when he left the room, I didn't make any sounds. I didn't do anything to, let him know that had happened. But I just remember that was the first time, that my body had done that. And of course, I'm getting older. I'm 9, 10, 11 years old, somewhere around there. So you're getting older. You're starting to develop, right? You're starting to move into that place. And I remember, just feeling so dirty, so sad, so overwhelmed. And at the same time, wanting that physical feeling again, not just from him, not that I wanted it from him, but just, kind of wanting to feel that again, because it was something I had never understood, and it, was my first time ever having my body respond in that way. And so there was a part of me that wanted to feel that again. And you have to remember, being cared for largely by my grandmother, and being prostituted by her at 5, she often called me a whore. She often whooped my vagina because she just felt like I was just a whore and I was gonna grow up to be a whore. She was crazy like that. Call me names and man, all kind of stuff. And so, in my head, even though I knew what she was saying wasn't true, there was a part of me that started to take that on and started to, believe that maybe I was bad. Maybe something was wrong with me, and maybe I deserved, this punishment, because that's how she justified the way she talked to me and what she had done to me. So when that happened and my body responded, I remember feeling like I must be a whore. I must be exactly what my grandmother said, that this has got to be true, because why else would I have this response? I don't like this. I've never liked it. I cry. I beg him not to do it. I'm praying for God, to help me, locking my door and crawling around on the floor, trying to sneak into the bed so that he wouldn't hear me in the bed, and that be his cue to come. All these crafty things we try to do, some of us when we're being molested, to avoid the situation. And so having that moment and having that experience was like, what in the world is going on? And when he touched me again, I don't remember it ever happening again. It definitely threw me into masturbation as a young kid, I will say that. But it really confused me. It really, really confused me. And I took on not wanting to talk about it, because I thought if this is the response, then maybe I like it. Maybe he knows something I don't know. Maybe he is justified. Maybe, as I said earlier, maybe I am what my grandmother said. And I didn't have anybody to talk about this with. I didn't feel I could tell my mother, because I didn't want to ruin her marriage. I didn't want my siblings to lose their father. I had all this weight on my shoulders for such a young girl, and I still wanted a dad. I still wanted my father. I just didn't want him to be touching me. You know what I'm saying? And I carried that. And I think it's why when I became 14, I became careless and decided I was ready to lose my virginity, because my perception of self after that was really low. Like, I really thought very bad of myself, that the only way you're ever going to have love and have somebody in your life, is to allow them to do grueling and grotesque things to you. That's all you're worth. That's your only value. This is the lie we tell ourselves. And if you want to be in a relationship, this is what it's got to look like. It's got to be abusive, And I carried that for a lot of years. I carried that guilt. And when I finally got into a place of transformation in my later years, when I really fell into the process with God, and now we're talking about in my adult years, as God is moving me into becoming a prophet, the Holy Spirit began to minister to me that it wasn't that I liked it. It's that our bodies have a natural response. God created our bodies a certain way to chemically respond to stimuli in a lot of levels. We're satiated. When we smell food, we're all of a sudden we're hungry. Our bodies respond to satiation. Our bodies respond, sensory. And what was happening is I had reached a place where my body began to respond to the touching. My body, was just there. Okay, you get what I'm saying. So it wasn't that it was my fault. Okay, it wasn't that I wanted the touching. It wasn't that I even wanted sex. It was that in that moment, that's what happened. And I could release myself from that guilt. I could, because you carry that. You think, if this is a bad thing, how can I be enjoying it? I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't. But when you have that response is enjoyable. You might not enjoy the situation that puts you there, but your body is responding, and that response, as I said, is enjoyable. And so I want to encourage you, if this is you, if you have struggled with this, or if you've, sort of avoided the conversation, if you are scared to push the dialogue, even with yourself, even with God, I want you to know it's okay. You are not the only person that has lived this. It's one of the reasons why girls who are being molested become chronic masturbators, or become, sexually active at a young age, because they're really looking to recreate that feeling. It's not about, because there were times, and I'll be honest, that I got caught masturbating, and I was really, really embarrassed, in the conversation, in the dialogue, because I didn't talk about the molestation. Was, sex is good, but at the right time, or, maybe it was kind of yelling at me, because I shouldn't be doing that. But I wasn't doing it because I was just sexual. I was doing it because that feeling of pleasure was something that I was trying to recreate, and it didn't make me a bad person. It didn't make me dirty. It was a normal exploration that needed conversation, that needed dialogue, that needed understanding. And see, when you don't have counseling at that age, when you don't have people you can really talk about it with, you create your own story. So I want to help you sort of look at this in a different way. If this is you or someone you love that may have been through this, and you're trying to help them through it, or through understanding it, or you're trying to, have conversation to give someone you love that space to talk about this stuff, they should understand. We should understand. It's a normal reaction. It's normal to feel that way. The patterns that we follow as a result of having had, that experience in our body is very normal. Okay. And it is with conversation and putting understanding to that, that we begin to perceive ourselves as normal, and then we can begin to have the dialogue toward healing. But as long as you're carrying that guilt, as long as you're saying within yourself, I liked it, assuming that you really didn't like the molestation, and what you liked was the feeling, you'll always sort of be locked in that place. You know what I'm saying? And God is trying to push us into dissecting, because when we bury that, because I had buried that, you know what I'm saying? And it's a place, when you bury it, that the enemy can set up room to mess with you in it and mess with your head. And what God is trying to do is uproot the things that the enemy has over you. God is always moving to set you free. So don't be afraid, even if it's just you and God, to push this dialogue, to dissect this, to sit with it. Because I'll tell you, when I did, I got so free. I'm telling you, I felt a weight that lifted off my shoulders, because it was one of the reasons I really didn't want to tell. Because if he had said, well, she likes it, I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to say that I didn't. As a kid, you don't know how to have those conversations. So it was more secrecy, and as I really sat with God and allowed God to just dissect that piece of it with me, I felt so free. And if you're not comfortable, if you need a place to talk about it, I encourage you to seek counseling. Sit with someone you trust. I'm happy to be your coach and talk to you about these things. You can find that information on my website. I just think that we have to say something. We have to bring voice to these little issues that are like nagging little foxes, or that come up when we're triggered, or that place where we suppress it because it's just too painful. It's just too uncomfortable. Those are the things we need to uproot so that the enemy doesn't have a foothold over us. This is how we get to freedom. This is how we get to liberty. And I'm not going to tell you it was easy for me to sit here and talk about this, but it becomes easier because the end goal is to bring you to the same liberty that I was able to find and to embrace. And so I hope that something in this helps you, or helps you to help somebody somebody that you are a caregiver for, or whatever the case may be. I hope that this dialogue will at least begin a conversation in your head, begin a conversation between you and God, so that you can find this liberty. We're going to close with that. We will be back on next Saturday with another episode of Say Something Saturday. I'm anxious to hear from you. Leave comments and thoughts. If this helped you, blessed you in any way, we would love to hear from you. So make sure you comment and subscribe to the channel so that you'll know when new episodes air. And don't keep us a secret. Share it with a friend. I'm sitting here pouring my heart out because I want to help you. Help me help you, and help me help others that you love and know. And those that you know need to hear these conversations, because these aren't conversations, that we're having in church. These aren't conversations that, that have a place, within the context of our worship. So I am obeying God and creating a place to push that dialogue. Visit our website, why don't you? It is in the description below. There are a lot of programs there that I think that will be a sincere and true and genuine, in-depth blessing to you, and it will walk you through how to heal in a more intense manner, one-on-one, just really pushing the dialogue with you and pushing you towards your place of growth. It has been an amazing 15 plus minutes with you. Until next weekend, I pray that you are blessed, and I'll see you next Saturday. God bless.